Right, I am going to do a little bit of introduction work here for those of you joining us live here on March 18th, 2021, but of course those joining us into the future. So I am very privileged and honored to have so many folks. I will say I extended an invite to a handful and I was thinking maybe one or two will hop on. They all said yes. And if that is telling of nothing else but how great this community is, I hope I'm going to start with that because they're amazing. And I'm so glad to see them all here. It is fun to see folks with new jobs, new haircuts, new offices, and it's great to have everyone back. I feel like we're already, it was like last week. That's what it feels like to me that we were together. I mean, it's been too long. So I'm going to afford a little bit of space here before we get started for everyone that was part of the IELOL global community to introduce themselves. And Dr. Liz Chaboke, I see you in here as well, and you were involved with that program. So I'm going to afford you the space if you'd like to hop on and introduce yourself as well. Totally unexpected, of course, so please feel free to say no. But we will start. How about we, because I called you out here, Liz, and I just saw you unmuted. You can introduce yourself, and then I will make a call to everyone else here, and we'll do a little bit of introduction work, and then we'll dive into some storytelling and lessons learned.
Thank you, Maddie. It's great to see everybody. I appreciate it, the opportunity to say hello. I'm Liz Chaboke. I'm with Adelphi University in Long Island, New York, and I also serve as a member of the OLC Board of Directors. So on their behalf, I bring you greetings. Really interested to hear what you're going to be talking about today and to have played a very small role in the program this past year. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Liz. Rassie, how about you go next?
Yes, colleagues, I'm Louw from South Africa. I'm a coordinator for the digital learning environment at Northwest University, but also a fellow and a coordinator with the Southern African Regional Universities Network within the region on digital transformation. And Jerry, and this will make you very happy. We've just added to that portfolio the whole question of open education and OER. So yes, we're getting there. I mean, everything that we dreamed about is it's bound to become true. So yeah, and I joined the faculty on IELOL as part of the SARUA faculty contingent. But in a certain sense, long before we started with IELOL, because there was a lot of discussions going on 2 years before the IELOL, in fact, global became a reality, there was discussions with OLC leadership to make this a reality. So as an introduction, I just want to say, me being here tonight, being part of the faculty, to me, it was a true blessing. And it's difficult to express myself because it was a dream come true to spend time with you and with everyone. Thanks, Maddie.
Absolutely, a dream come true for sure. And out of it, some amazing new colleagues and friends. So thank you for that, Rassie. All right, we have some of the cohort members here, and they are hopping in to share stories, talk about some of the things they took away from the program, and of course to answer any questions that you all might have if you're here to learn a little bit more about IELOL Global or building global coalitions and building partnerships with folks around the world. So I see here on my screen, Priya, you are first. So how about you go ahead and introduce yourself?
There must be some reason where a woman is up there at 11:30 p.m. nearly midnight from India. Namaste to all. The magic is right here, thanks to Angela, Maddie, Rassie, and my colleague, my peer, Stephen Bliss. It's such a joy to see all of you. The good news is, thank you, Maddie and Angela, the inclusiveness. My God, what a mind-blowing knowledge and awareness. Because it triggered me. I posted a question, you know the story, and I was belittled by the academic team. I thought this is not the place to be, and see where that led to. This month I joined a university which has 3.5 lakh online students, and just 3 days ago, I created an inclusive policy and we admitted 12 differently abled students. Unheard of ever. I mean, in a scenario in India, and crores of money are getting included, are getting invested in assistive technology. I have no clue how to go about it, but I know there is a family here. I can go back and ask doubts. That is the impact of IELOL 2020. It's changed me. It's changed my job. And how can I forget? I leave the ebook for my Bliss, TJ Bliss, to talk about it. I can't see Hoda here. Hoda came from Africa to India, of course, virtually, and she trained almost 100 teachers in what she is good at. Thank you so much, Angela, Maddie. Thank you really so much for that transformative power of this program. Thank you, such a small word to really express my gratitude. I can only say that I'm a little pebble doing that ripple effect, but I know this ripple will become a tsunami someday. Thank you.
I cannot wait to quote that because that was such an amazing metaphor. And yes, you are absolutely going to become a tsunami with all of the amazing work within the space of India. So absolutely. Wow, this is already way more powerful. I might tear up because I didn't expect this session to be like this quite yet in my day. Stephen, you are next on my screen.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see your faces again from last year. I'm the honors director at Delgado Community College, and I use what I learned last year every day. And the final project that I did for IELOL, I'm actually presenting at the National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development in about 2 weeks. So it has become a transformative element for my honors program, and just a great opportunity. And I'm so happy for all the relationships with all of you all that we developed and that I look forward to continuing. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And before I move to the next cohort member, we are doing introductions for those who have joined us. And after these introductions, I'll do a little bit of context setting for what IELOL Global was. We will do some storytelling. Please feel free to ask any questions along the way. And of course, as we do some of the storytelling, you will hear some lessons learned about building relationships and moving towards global coalitions with partners across the world. All right, Jonathan, you're next here on my screen.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you again. I'm Jonathan Lashley. I'm the Associate Chief Academic Officer for the Idaho State Board of Education. And I and a few of my colleagues from the State Board had the privilege of participating in IELOL Global last fall because we were in the midst of exploring a big statewide online education initiative. And I was the only one with any experience in online education in our office at the time. So it was a great trial by fire to just get everyone in and collaborating with other emergent online leaders across the globe.
Thank you, thank you. And Dr. Marie Bukhari, you're next here on my screen.
Well, thank you. It's great to see all these wonderful faces again. Since last year, oh my gosh, besides meeting a wonderful group of people, a lot has changed in my little world. I have moved from being a full-time faculty to being an associate director of faculty development and support. I also became faculty laureate for 2021. So my world has changed tremendously, and I think often of the lessons that I learned in the early work with this group last year, and how that collaboration, and I continually push collaboration with my faculty now, you know, talking about having the right conversations with the right people at the right time. And it is truly making a difference in the way that they are able to serve our students. And I'm hoping to see that some of our metrics change over time, where we're actually reaping the fruits of our labors. So great to be here.
All right, and last but not least, TJ.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and afternoon and evening. I'm TJ Bliss. I'm the Chief Academic Officer at the Idaho State Board of Education. And I also consider Jerry Hamley one of the most incredible humans in the world. If I say open educational resources, Jerry, will you do that move again? Because that was incredible. The IELOL Global was very valuable for me. Jonathan explained how he was really the only one in our office and who had a good understanding of online education and all of the nuances and intricacies and complexities. And it's been the experience that I had, especially working with a small team and group that I had with Priya and a woman named Hoda in Egypt. We built a great friendship, but also were able to create a great asset that Priya was just telling me they're using in her new institution that she's at. So real tangible value. We obviously use the information that we received and the experiences every day here as we try to support students across our state and our region. So I'm happy to be here and excited to see all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, TJ, and thank you to you all for those introductions. So what I'm going to do next is provide a little bit of more context around IELOL Global. As you saw in the chat, if you were here at that time, we will be advertising this year's upcoming cohort that it will open April 1st. So following the conference, we will make sure to advertise that. So stay on the lookout if you have any interest and are thinking, you know what, this already sounds great. I want to be in a community like this, because I felt that myself, even as a program coordinator. Know that those are coming. And so you'll be able to find the information about that there. Today, what I'm hoping that we do is provide the cohort members and my fellow colleagues, Angela, Dr. Chaboke, as she feels so compelled as well, but also Rassie, to speak into this space. We're going to share a little bit of our insight about what it means to bring folks together from around the world in meaningful collaboration work, what that space looked like, some of the things we learned in that space, but of course, why this type of work is important and what we can glean from engaging in really intentional leadership development, but with the IELOL Global spin on it, if you will. So please feel free if you have questions along the way to leave them in the chat, and we will answer any and all of them you might have. And we'd love to hear your stories as well. So if you engage in global coalition building work, let us know. If you want to collaborate, let us know. This is a space that we'd love to have that invitation as well. All right, so IELOL Global. Rassie, I'll tag you in here as well to share a little bit of that envisioning. But I will talk a little bit about the program. So we had a cohort of individuals from around the world gather for intentional leadership and professional development work. It took place over the course of multiple months. And throughout it, they had a various series of phases that they had to go through. The first phase was really centered around doing a lot of self-work. So who am I as an individual within an institutional space, within the world? What do I care about? What do I want to be? Where do I envision myself going? And how do I envision myself growing? But then who else is in my network here, right? Who are the folks around me? And so it was a lot of that initial getting to know myself and getting to know the others around me. So some of that level setting, some of that deep personal reflection, and getting to know the cohort. We then moved into some really important work, which was inviting folks from around the world. So we have within the OLC a fantastic group of partners, SARUA being one of them, and I'll afford Rassie a little bit more space to talk about SARUA, of course. But whether it be in the South African region, in Europe, in Australia, the OLC has some fantastic partnerships around the world, and we'd be remiss in a program like this, of course, to not invite those perspectives and those voices. One of the things that we knew is going to be really meaningful is how do we really engage in meaningful leadership around online learning for the sake of global change if we don't bring those global perspectives in. So the cohort itself wasn't just the global perspectives, but even the experts, the faculty, the voices in that space were from around the world. And we had a fantastic group of them, really committed to helping us think through what leadership looks like, and particularly what we should be tending to within our field for things like prioritization, things like digital transformation, how that work happens, and particularly what it looks like around the world. Because of course, this work is all contextualized. What it looks like to do this work right here at Michigan State, in Lansing, Michigan, where I'm locally contextualized, is very different than what it needs to necessarily look like in South Africa. We have maybe various variables that we can talk about and that we have in common, like issues of access and sustainability. Those things, right? Those are ubiquitous. They're ubiquitous challenges that we all face, but how we face them looks very different, and for very understandable reasons, right? We are different cultures, we have different understandings, we have different needs, you name it. So that whole second phase was really centered around getting to understand that, right? What are the things we should be tending to, why, and how does this look like? What does this look like around the world? We then moved into, and you did hear reference, if you were here at the beginning, from the cohort members talking about the project work they did. The last two phases really centered in group project work. And so we put folks together into small groups, and they were tasked with building an asset that would meaningfully bring about some sort of change, right, or act in the world, right? And one of the major goals of IELOL Global is really centering this type of collaborative work, that it isn't insular, right? That we need to come together to do this work and do this work in collaboration. And of course, have the idea and a commitment to global change in mind. And the projects that they all brought into the world were absolutely amazing. And I'll afford them, if they so choose, a little space to talk about them across their groups. But you already heard one is actively in works right now, that people are using it. That the asset that was built out of one of those groups is already making and contributing to change within an entire institutional space. So know that part of the goal of IELOL Global was to help bring about change, that we weren't just going to sit in that personal reflection and discussion space. We wanted to help enact change in the world, and in doing so help to foster and build those global coalitions. So that is global in a very short synthesis. I can't possibly, of course, provide all the details of the months we were together. But Rassie, is there anything else you want to share about the program before we dive into some storytelling?
Yeah, from my side, Maddie, so what impressed me from the beginning when I did the IELOL in 2014 was the international flavor. The cohort that I attended, there was international flavor to the IELOL that in my mind opened up education in such a way that we crossed boundaries to experience what education looked like globally. Because I think we tend to silo ourselves away in the circumstances and the environment that we face every day in the different countries that we're from. So and I know that we talked about this and developing and designing the IELOL Global last year intentionally to specifically address this. And I have to commend both you and Angela, because the people that you brought in to speak across cultures. I've forgotten that friend of yours, Angela, that did the music. I mean, afterwards, in my contact with my African colleagues, the people from Africa that attended, to them it was such a blessing to understand, to know the important role that music can play, because music is an expression, a cultural expression of what the person is. And that wouldn't have been possible if this was not an international group of people coming together. That's the one thing that to me was a standout. The second thing that was a standout is and this is now coming from us, from me as a South African, but as an African, is the way that you, as the rest of the globe, the rest of the cohort around the globe, accepted us into the fold of the higher education discussion. And I say this because I truly know that we need a lot of input. Over the years, Africa has been guilty of exporting all the people that's really dedicated into education, exporting them internationally, because we did not provide for the people, for our own people, in the best way to build their leadership skills, especially in online learning. But the IELOL Global last year paved the way. It made this possible. So yeah, that's the second thing. Really, I believe, and it's like Priya said, I believe we've started a tsunami that will change the way we in Africa look at higher education, online education, and the very important role that we have to play to change the lives of the people that we engage with. Thanks, mate.
Thank you for that, Rassie. Yes, and I'll echo. I think just bringing the community together was foundational and part of what I will always walk away with. All right, folks, it is now time. If you have questions, of course, please feel free to drop them in the chat. But it is for some storytelling. So I'm going to open it up to the cohort. I can call on you each if you would like, but to share either a story, something about, to share this audience. If you were to imagine we have folks in the room that might be interested in building global coalitions, that might be interested in IELOL Global as a program or leadership development training, broadly speaking, what's a story that you might share with them about this work, the importance of it, something you've learned, or perhaps you can expand a little bit more on the project work you did and the type of impact you believe this type of work has in the world. And that is what I prepped you with, so you know that was coming. So do any of you particularly want to start? If not, I can call upon one of you to see if you would want to go first.
Well, I'm going to jump in and volunteer Priya to go first. Only because I'll share with you the asset that we developed out of this with our small group here in the chat. But I'm curious to hear, because Priya mentioned that she's using this in her new institution, and I'd love to hear how that's going. And she says it's a hot topic there. So yeah, you can take a look at the ebook that we developed. But I'm mostly curious the story that Priya has around it, actually.
Yeah, I guess in our team, Hoda from Egypt, TJ from America, and I from India, each one had their own vantage point of looking at the saturation, or let me say, the stage at which the online education is from where they look at. So we started discussing the market, and we started discussing matching the market with the product portfolio, the course portfolio. So if you look into the ebook, you will get all the details, but how I'll come down to how we are applying. Now that I'm part of a much, much bigger university, and it already has 3.5 lakh online students across India, and which is just not even 1% of what Indian youth is all about. We also have 40,000 students in Africa. So the moment I learned that, I'm just, by the way, 17 days old in the university, I used this book to train 77 of my team members. So we are 500 odd in our team, in our organization, in the online vertical, I mean. Otherwise, the university has 5,000 people. That's it. I mean, I'm using that book to train that how to look into the market, how to look into the digital poverty, how to look into the product portfolio and break it so that they are able to access it, complete the course, and make themselves employable. So, you know, to trigger that mindset change, that takes I don't know what it takes. Maybe it takes passion plus some experiential learning from people across the globe. So India will have its own solution, but learning what worked in Egypt and America, it helped us to create a solution that will help our nation. So this was unique. I'll stop it there.
I love that we were able to find so much common ground despite the distance between our geographies and the differences between our contexts and even the markets we were looking at for that context, there were a lot of questions we identified that were common to all of these, which I think helped build and helped us build competency, but also confidence in what we produced, and it was just a wonderful experience to go through that as a collaborative, truly global collaborative. Priya up at midnight and me up at 6 a.m. and it was worth the sacrifice and loss of sleep to engage and produce something together that's meaningful and useful.
I love that. Jonathan and or Dr. Bakari, anything you want to share at this particular point in time about things that you took away from the program, either that or the project that you and your group developed, Jonathan, as well, or a reflection on the really focus on leadership development and why that kind of personal commitment is important or can be impactful.
I'll go ahead and jump in here briefly. Due to circumstances that occurred last year in my family, I could only go so far in the program before I had to leave my group to finish. But during the time that we spent together, working across these borders and, figuring out the various time schedules and so forth, the research that we did had a huge impact on my ability to be able to teach inclusive excellence to fellow faculty, to leaders in my university, and across the board, because now, of course, inclusive excellence is not restricted to the higher education environment, but it's actually also spreading out into governments. The state of Virginia has adopted it at the government level. And the benefits are that you get to examine everything that is done within the university through a specific lens to make sure that there's equal access, there's equal opportunity for success, that we are using our institutional infrastructure in the best way possible to maximize the benefits to everyone. And there are 5 dimensions. I won't go into all of them now, but having done some in-depth research on it to put our project together, it enabled me to be able to take it a step further and to be able to teach others and to just bring others on board with, exactly what Priya said, changing mindsets. Because by doing that, we can be more inclusive, we can meet our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, and we can do so much more and for so many more, which is hopefully where our university will continue to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. And Jonathan, I saw you had unmuted, and Stephen, you saw my DM in the chat, so you'll be up next if you're willing.
So my experience is maybe a little bit different from most people who went through IELOL Global, and it's that I'm also an alumnus of IELOL. I went through that in 2016, and it was at Penn State. And one thing that was constant there that has consisted or persisted with IELOL Global is that I really credit my experience with the initial IELOL as formative, just as in being a professional in education. Never mind online, never mind digital learning. The network that I started establishing there with that event, and importantly, doing work with other practitioners from a variety of different backgrounds with a variety of different responsibilities, that has become my professional learning network. That's become my group, my posse, and it's a great group to be part of. I became friends with Jill Lubon and Kristen Palmer and others who were in that cohort, Josh Heron, and I continue to meet with these folks on a regular basis. And that's also been true for my group in IELOL. And so also similarly between both events, I attended with a cohort of my immediate colleagues. So at the time I was at Clemson, now I'm at the Idaho State Board of Education. And though we had shared contexts and problems that we were trying to address, in both cases we were working with colleagues from other places. And as a result, what I found consistently both times is that coming back even though I continue to work with TJ and others who went through IELOL Global, we have this network that is unique to each of us and expands in separate directions. And it really helps ground and inspire a lot of the work that we're trying to do together in local contexts. And TJ mentioned this already, but I think that the thing that really took me by surprise, and I was a little embarrassed that it was such a surprise, was just how similar the needs and the goals and the constraints and the resources were between those of us in the United States and those of us who were working with our colleague in South Africa. And in fact, it was really easy to determine what we want our project to be about. And our project was about trying to create a utility for change management, because we all recognized that we were in varying degrees trying to manage change, whether it was as a faculty member in the classroom, as an instructional designer trying to work with faculty, as a state level administrator, as an institution level administrator. And all four of us, we had the same issue, and it's that it's just getting started. With so many great frameworks and places to go and heuristics to use for managing change, we're like, is there just a way that we can get out of our own heads and get out of our way and have a decision tree to help guide us and just give us something that's good enough to get started? And that was our simple premise. And it was one that spanned a global context. And we continue to iterate it and develop it. And we'll continue to do so further and meet on a regular basis and have professional conversations and personal conversations. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about just IELOL in general, but the global context, particularly in a state like Idaho that is seldom equated with global things or global thinking. It was really nice.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. And yes, I don't know if you happen to also share the link to your particular team's resources as well, but if you haven't, feel free to drop that in the chat as well. And you will have seen that Liz Chaboke also did drop a link to a Facebook group for IELOL. We'll be developing some spaces like that for the global cohort, but if any of you in the cohort would like to drop your information so Diana can keep in touch with you, I'm sure she would appreciate it as well. All right, Stephen. So Stephen, I asked him if he was willing to talk a little bit about how he leveraged the program within his institutional context as well, to help bring about a change project that he was really passionate about and has had some tremendous success in. So Stephen, what are some of the things you've taken away and lessons you've learned?
The project I actually developed was not particularly grand or world changing. It was a practical application of combining some features of Canvas with a robust e-portfolio system, Portfolium, to manage an honors program. But the stealth part of this, in addition to the fact that it had a value for my honors program, was that it enabled a number of people in distance learning at my institution to roll out e-portfolios to students in all divisions. And that meant that their honors faculty, who were also using e-portfolios in all divisions, became a pilot program. And our hope is that, having bought enough licenses for 500 people this semester, that we can move on to have e-portfolios be part of our education throughout the institution. And one of the goals for honors programs in general is to be a laboratory for learning. And so we very intentionally used our honors program to roll out e-portfolios at our college, and perhaps at some other college. It may become a system-wide thing. The other thing for me personally is, I'm not sure how familiar all of you are with honors programs, but traditionally, before the pandemic hit, honors was not particularly sympathetic to online learning. There was a prejudice that the real sorts of things that were honors worthy took place only in person and were a certain kind of constricted, I should say, vision of what constituted learning. And of course, all of the people with those ideas and prejudices are suddenly teaching online like everybody else. So this is a time of tremendous upheaval and change in honors education, both in the United States and in global honors education. I'm doing an institute for the National Collegiate Honors Council this summer on the future of honors with Brian Alexander, who wrote Academia Next, looking at some of the trends and possibilities for the future of honors, and that has been greatly enhanced by my participation in IELOL Global. So thank you. And as is always the case, sometimes you speak to the door so the wall can hear you. The good things that came from my project aren't just the project itself, it's the connections and the little cul-de-sacs and turns that lead to bigger things. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. And of course, you had opportunity to get feedback, right? And feedback that wasn't just insular to your context, right? But from around the world of helping to provide insight into what all you should be thinking about. So absolutely. We have now here just under 4 minutes. And so what I have asked each of the cohort members, and Rassie included, to think about is if they could leave you here today with a 1 to 2 sentence, like a one-liner essentially, about global partnerships and what they bring to us, what that might be. Do any of you particularly feel ready to go yet? Dr. Bakari, you already unmuted. You are ready. Go ahead.
I'm ready. To truly be inclusive in your universities, in your environments, you have to engage globally. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, that was an excellent mic drop. Next, who wants to go next? Anyone feeling ready yet? Priya, I saw you on mute as well.
Yes. Learning from others' experiences would make you more agile and fasten up your journey to the solution. You really don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, Priya, would you mind repeating just that last part? It was a little hard to hear the second part of your response there.
So you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. If you learn from what others have done, and you just take it from there and apply it, and then a new learning starts. Absolutely.
Thank you for that, Priya. It was definitely easier to hear you that second time around. So thank you for repeating that for us. Stephen, TJ, Jonathan, or Rassie? TJ.
Yeah, sure. I think global partnerships are beneficial because they can help you discover new approaches to common challenges. And I think learning that you have challenges in common with people across the globe fosters a deeper sense of community and belonging.
Yeah, if I could add to that, just maintaining a global worldview in this work helps us keep mind of what's possible, because that global worldview is always going to be appropriate for our local context.
As somebody who teaches at a community colleges often focus on very local and very job-oriented things. But through the honors program, I've been able to do a number of study abroad initiatives and to try to encourage my institution to think about global possibilities and global entrepreneurship, which is a tremendous opportunity for community colleges, especially given the technology we have. So I'm a global convert.
I love that, a global convert. Absolutely. And Rassie?
Yeah, I would say helping students to be successful and to reach their dream is just, we need everyone to come and to pull this wagon up the hill. So global partnerships, colleagues, it will be impossible to achieve the dream of helping our students to be successful without everyone jumping in and working together and collaborating. Yep.
Thank you for that. And I don't know if you saw, Jonathan had to leave, but thank you, Rassie, and thank you to all for those reflections. I did see a question here in the chat, and we are just the last minute, so we'll have to unfortunately end, which is unfortunate because I haven't seen these folks in a while and I missed them all. But we will be announcing the cohort for 2021 will be open very shortly here after the conference. We wanted to get the conference space as well as IELOL. We have a high flex model with ASU who are advertised very shortly, and the application is due March 20 9th. So we wanted to get the space there, but as soon as that is advertised and closed, we will be hearing all about IELOL Global. So if you've been on the lookout for that, no worries, it's coming. And we did drop some links in the chat, but thank you to all, particularly for the cohort and for Rassie, for those around the world, whether you're our friends in South Africa or our friends in India, for coming and joining us so late. We love and appreciate you. And I hope this was helpful in hearing about some of the lessons we learned about building some partnerships and community across the world with others, and all that it can help bring in terms of change in our spaces. Angela, I turn things back over to you to officially close this out.